Hey everyone, I'm Tanner. This is my lovely wife Morgan. We're both guides for upriver fly fishing here in Buena Vista, Colorado. We're on the banks of the Arkansas River. It's the end of July. We're actually on a stretch of private water that we have exclusive access to guide, and we're going to bring you this week's fishing update.
So at this point in the summer, the conditions are going to stay pretty consistent every day. We're looking at flows anywhere from 650 to 700 CFS, and it will stay that way until about mid-August. So that means that conditions on the banks are going to be really good for walk and wade. You can hit lots of pocket water, you can hit the faster riffles. The fish are kind of spread out everywhere. You can also boat comfortably as well and hit the banks with streamers or fish dry flies. So everything's good to go on the Ark, and it's a really fun time of year to be fishing.
So really quickly, let's touch on weather patterns for this time of year. It's still kind of monsoon season, so you can expect those afternoon thunderstorms. On days that we don't see afternoon thunderstorms, the temperatures can get pretty high outside, but we're pretty lucky on the Arkansas. We rarely see the water temperatures getting above that 67 degrees where it becomes unsafe for the trout to fish for them. So it's good to go year-round here fishing-wise. We do notice sometimes on those hotter afternoons the fish will tend to go a little deeper to some cooler water, and you can kind of switch up your tactics in that time of day and do some deeper nymph rigs, and you can still pick up some fish. We tend to reach for our 9-foot 5 weights almost anytime we're fishing the Arkansas. You can go down to a 9-foot 4 weight, definitely if you're just fishing dry flies, and you can always size up to a 6 or 7 weight if you're going to be throwing streamers or heavy nymph rigs all day. But generally speaking, a 9-foot 5 weight is kind of your do-it-all rod on the Arkansas. From there, we're typically putting a 9-foot 4X leader to our dry fly, typically picking a big stonefly or hopper imitation this time of year, something that's very buoyant. That way we can suspend a nice dropper off of that. For the dropper, we're using fluorocarbon tippet to help get down there, and it's a little less visible for the trout. So the fluorocarbon will do anywhere from a foot to 3 feet for the dropper. And that's kind of just our starting rig when we're walking to the river. We found great success with it. And a lot of people tend to go for that rig on the Arkansas. And we start there, and then if we see the fish reacting to certain bugs hatching, we might change up our rigs. We might bust off that dropper and put a second dry fly on, a smaller one. Or we might just bust off that hopper dropper rig altogether and just put a singular dry on and really key in on that hatch. But stick around to the end of the video. We'll kind of go over more of the exact bugs that we're looking for this time of year and some patterns to match them.
So beyond the Arkansas River, we have a lot of really great options this time of year. The high alpine is only open for a few months out of the year, so definitely take advantage of that. We also have quite a few creeks that you can fish and throw some dry flies at really willing fish. And then of course we have a lot of reservoirs around here too that hold some really, really beautiful fish that you can catch this time of year.
5:45, so it's 5:45. We're gonna head down to the river and kind of show you guys how we pick apart the pocket water and try and catch a fish real quick. Let's go.
So looking behind me, I see a few different features that I think will hold fish. We've got over here a nice little deep hole that's moving a little slower. We've got several rocks that are probably going to hold some fish behind and in front of them. And then I've also got a few different foam lines out more towards the center that I'm going to try as well. So to get started, I will work the water closest to me here, and then I'm going to slowly work my way across and then up. So as luck would have it, I hooked a fish as soon as Tanner wasn't recording, but I just caught a fish right against this cut bank. I kind of forgot to mention earlier, cut banks are also a really nice place to target. A lot of these grassy banks have a little kind of divot underneath, so the fish like to hang out there, pop out, grab food, and that's exactly what happened. So super cool to eat, really beautiful fish.
All right, my turn to try and get one. I'm going to try and hit these little pockets where each of these currents kind of come together and form a little holding zone. We'll see what happens. Splash the lens a little bit. So he was holding right in between. I don't know if you can see that little, in between those two fast currents, there's just one little strip of calm, ripply water. Just enough space to hold a fish, and he was in there. All right, so as you can see, the storm has rolled back in. It's about to start dumping on us. We've seen a few flashes of lightning. We got a few fish pretty quick. Definitely picked a few pockets, so that was a lot of fun. But we're gonna run back to the shop and we'll go over some hot flies for this time of year. All right guys, we are back at the shop. I've got a few flies picked out here that I like to reach for this time of year. I've got 5 dry flies, 5 nymphs, kind of based off of what I saw out on the river today, what I saw hatching. Early morning we're seeing a lot of smaller mayflies like tricos and PMDs. A few rusty duns here and there as well. So I've got some smaller dry flies to imitate those. After that, as it's warming up, we're seeing more caddis and yellow sallies and golden stoneflies, so some bigger dry offerings later in the day. As far as nymphs go, I've got kind of the pupa form of all of those same flies. So I've got a mayhem starting off, that's my smallest nymph. This is actually a nymph that has a little bit of foam on it, so it can be fished as an emerger in the surface film, or it can be sunk down and fished as an actual midge deep down in the water column. Next up, I've got a Duracell. This is one of our favorite flies. We've mentioned it a few times on these episodes of these fishing reports. It is a favorite for a reason. This fly can kind of imitate a few different things. So it can imitate a mayfly that is emerging towards the surface. It can also imitate a caddis that's diving into the water to lay its eggs. It kind of has a lot of movement naturally in the water with that CDC collar. Next up is kind of in the same realm. This is a pheasant tail with some CDC and a hot collar. Same thing, that CDC gives it a lot of movement. The pheasant tail can either be a mayfly or in that same caddis family, so that's kind of just a good imitative pattern as well. Next, for the nymphs, I've got a 2-bit hooker in the yellow sally version. This actually has 3 tungsten beads tied into a little fly. So for its size, it's very heavy and it gets down quick. So that's a really good one to imitate those yellow sally nymphs. And then last, on the nymph side of things, I've got a jig Pat's rubber leg, black and tan. And this is really going to imitate those golden stoneflies that are getting kicked off the rocks and moving around and swimming and crawling and hatching this time of year. There are a lot of other stonefly imitations out there that look realistic to our eye, to our naked eye, but I find that a lot of time the Pat's rubber leg has a lot of natural movement to it, and more movement than some of the more realistic looking stonefly patterns out there. So these are a few of my favorite. The stimulator, this one's one that can kind of hybridize. It can be your yellow sally dry, or it can be a caddis. Same with the chubby. This is another favorite for the Arkansas for two reasons. It can be a big stonefly, it can be a hopper, but it's also a nice indicator for us to suspend some of these droppers. So these are some of the flies we recommend for this time of year. There's a lot that will work, so come in, pick your favorite, pay attention to what's hatching out on the river and try and match it. I've heard some rumors of some green drakes here and there, so if you see some green drakes, throw some green drakes. But pay attention to what's happening out there, match the hatch, have a good time. See you on the next one, guys.